you just have a little bit of a different perspective in some of the things that we can do against an opponent in a very controlled manner. So that's all part of it, which is critical.
You got a real string of practices and padded practices and all. I think with a day off, your players will get their legs back a little bit now.
Yeah, it's always critical at some point, and we kind of have that player day off thing built in, which is, that they did a couple of years ago, which is good. Hopefully try to get that rest and recovery. It's kind of what I tell them all the time. It's the player day off, but it's really not for those guys because their body is the most important thing. So they have to really go in and make sure they're doing everything they can to take care of their body during that day and try to get a little bit of rejuvenation here before we get going this week. So obviously with the flight today and all that, I'm trying to get out. We're just trying to make sure we have enough rest to be in a really competitive situation here the next couple of days.
What's going on with Ashawn Robinson?
Ashawn is working hard to try to, do everything he can to, get out there and compete and improve every single day. So, just part of the norm.
How did he get hurt? What's his injury?
Yeah, he just, really, again, with Ashawn, we have different plans, and we have different plans for every players that have been out there based on, some days we're going and some days we're not. Some days we pull off them and from that aspect. So, trying to get them ready to go from that standpoint. And sometimes the guys, we get a lot of practices in a row, and we just got to modify whatever they're doing for that day.
You mentioned the vanilla nature of the preseason. Are you really looking at fundamentals then at that standpoint, just the physical fundamentals of the guys?
Yeah, they're really, that's exactly it. It's a good opportunity for us to really get an evaluation of alignments, responsibility. Sometimes it just becomes a little bit different in a game setting to see how they can handle some of the mental part of it too. And then just to get in the flow of game situations, down and distance, first down, second down, third down, special teams, rotate, and just get in that mode to see the concentration level that has to take place over a 3-hour game. A lot of it also in the preseason is, you might have different guys going in and out through the course of the game, and some of the guys that may not be in right away that are going to get in later, we'll see the same plays that were earlier in the game, and it's a good evaluation to see if, they're paying attention or if they can handle the adjustments and kind of do that evaluation also. So there's definitely a great evaluation process that takes place there, even though it's kind of just you're trying to run some basic things on both sides of the ball.
What sort of things can you learn about your team when you're at joint practices like these that you can't necessarily see when you're practicing against blue shirts?
Sure. I would say definitely from a standpoint of just kind of adjusting to different schedules. It's a good opportunity for us to travel, before we get to that first game and kind of get set up and be in a different surrounding, a different environment, and still try to have that same sort of focus and intensity when we, step out on the practice field. Definitely be a different setup. Again, I think I maybe mentioned this before. We like routine. We like to kind of be in that normal mode of get up and go to practice and know what we're doing and eat the same thing every single day and kind of just be creatures of habit. Sometimes the season isn't like that. You might have a Monday night game, you might have a Thursday game, you might have a night game, a day game, and there's a little bit of break in the routine. So it's a good opportunity for us to take this as a challenge to break the routine a little bit and see how we respond and kind of come back and perform. So it's another kind of off the charts little thing that we'll look at too as we go.
Really like, I guess, putting the mental and physical strain on your guys to get them prepared. Just the nature of practicing on the West Coast and I think the mental strain of 3 different time zones. I mean, is that a benefit, do you think, to your guys?
Well, I mean, it's certainly something we have to do during the season. We're going to go out there pretty quick in the year. So that's all definitely part of it. It's part of the schedule change like we were just talking about, that we have to handle. So, hopefully we'll be able to do that in a good way.
We've asked quite a bit about your tight ends. I'm just curious about Hakeem Vallis, what you've seen from him so far.
Yeah, he's done a really good job so far in camp, really understanding the pass routes and some of his releases, and I would say the top of his stem movement there. He's really improved from that aspect of it. And then, guy's very willing blocker. He's going to throw himself in the mix. We have some different positions that we line him up in and some different packages that we can play him in, which is good. So he's very smart. This kid's really smart guy, really understands the game, and he's really kind of gravitated towards that. So he's been able to handle all that information and then go out and perform and have some, some good production on the field, especially in some critical situations. So that's been positive.
I know you guys brought in a couple of guys you like. I know you guys like Michael Roberts. What does Hakeem have to do to impress you enough to enter that conversation to get a roster?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's the same for everybody. You just go out and perform and produce and do it on a consistent level. That's really what we're going to look for through the course of camp. I think you can't really go through camp and say, well, we think this guy can do it, and then if he never does it and then rely on him, you're just kind of, banking on the fact that they'll be able to do it, but that's not really a good idea. We're going to try to make sure that they show that they can do it and they can perform at that level consistently all the time, and that's what builds the trust to be able to put them in the game.
What is your relationship like with John Gruden?
Coach Gruden's great. I've met him through mostly just being in the television side when he's come and done the games from that aspect of. We have a couple common relationships and friendships there. So really been close through the years as far as that's concerned, and had a lot of good conversation, both football-wise, team-wise, and things like that. So when this opportunity came up, it was an easy phone call. Just give him a call and say, hey, this is what we're looking for. How about you guys? And he's on the same page. So should be a really good working relationship from that standpoint. And like I said, he's a good friend. So I don't think there'll be it'll be great.
Will you guys ever? You think you'll get a chance to huddle away from the field and maybe talk football, and that benches you on what it's like to be a head coach or so many?
It's a really busy couple days out there, so I'm sure we'll always have conversations with coaches when you're around them, pick their brains if you can and ask them questions. And certainly he's been a guy that I've been able to do that very openly, and just I probably have a lot more questions than he does, so I'll probably be asking more to him than he will be to me.
I want to get your impressions on another individual, Jeremiah Ledbetter, guy that's played both end and inside, put on some weight last year for that scheme. Just wondering what your impressions have been on him in his second year.
Yeah. Ledbetter's done a great job. He's an explosive guy. He's a long guy. He's a bigger body guy, obviously, right now, but has that flex to be able to go inside and outside, which is good. Try to get him in some different matchup situations. He's smart, so that's a positive there. So you can line him up in a lot of different spots. But still, I think from all those guys up front, really still just trying to ingrain the technique. I think that's probably the biggest change for all those guys up there. I would say the initial kind of just stance, start, aim point, all that stuff, is that consistency is what we're still striving to get from all of those guys.
The defensive line for a sec. After just about every practice, the defensive line, your pass rushers, I guess, too, some of the linebackers sort of huddle up with Bo and some of the coaches, and they spend 10 or 20 minutes working on their hands and everything. Is that a player-led thing? Is that a coach-led thing? And what do those guys get out of that extra?
Yeah, we get done with practice. Practice isn't necessarily over. There's always opportunity to work until you get to your next thing that we have to do, whether it's a meeting, a special teams meeting, squad, or lunch, whatever the case may be. Or if there might be something during the course of the practice that they just want more clarification on, or anything we can do to help in that aspect and continue to coach them is what we're going to try to do. A lot of times it's great to see the players grab, younger guys, or just grab themselves and go work and really, again, focus on the techniques or the fundamentals, or there might be some things that sometimes what's really good about that is, we may say it or I may say it in a particular way, but it's going to sound different if their teammates say it to them, even though it's the same thing. So that kind of coaching sort of atmosphere by the players themselves is really what I think helps, especially the younger guys, grow the most. So.
There's some days when Jared Davis is the last one off the practice field with that kind of stuff, just doing extra bag work by himself. How does that, I guess, help specifically a second-year player trying to make that jump? And with him, is there ever anything he does, any risk of overdoing it or overtraining, or do you just kind of let him do everything?
I think, every profession, guys that stay late, work hard, really try to perfect their craft. I don't really care what the job is. Those are the guys that you want out there. Guys that come in and just kind of punch the clock and work 9 to 5 and check out. I don't think any of us get to where we want to be if we do that. So certainly I think that's a great attribute and characteristic of what he does every single day and what he brings. So, we're lucky to have that. That's we got a saying, there's no CEO stuck in, morning rush hour. So people have got to get in early and work hard and stay late. That's what we do, and that's what everybody does. So he's a great example of that. Yep.
The practices you've been running are very physical. There's been some live tackling and everything. When you work with another team, how do you work that out with Coach Gruden, and how do you set the guidelines of what can and can't happen? Yeah, 100%. That's, a critical step for us in kind of preparing. And it's also part of the process of coaches that you do have relationships with, other head coaches that you can call and say, hey, this is what we're trying to get out of this. Is this kind of, is this your mode? Is this your mentality? Is this how you want to practice? And I think that's something you try to find out first and foremost. There's a little bit aspect of it that's, it's a fine line because it's another team, it's an opponent, it's a different guy, so the intensity kind of ramps up a little bit, but you really have to, as a coach, keep it controlled. We don't want any situations. Neither teams want to come out with anybody with any injuries or anything, stupid that could happen in practice. We're all just trying to get better, and I think you just explain that to the players, and, they respect that. They understand that there's hey, there's a method to this, there's a reason that we're doing this, and, stay within those guidelines. Otherwise, we're not going to do it.
So, okay, thanks, appreciate it.